What's up? Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. We got a lot of rumors and speculation. It's February. It's that time of the year. Free agency will be in a couple of weeks, and then we'll have new players to talk about. But until then, we got to talk about players on other teams writing rap songs that vaguely reference the 49ers. Maybe Maxx Crosby, known rapper, just came out with a new song. And in the song, he let us know that he just bought a house in the Bay. He did play out here. The Bay's a great place. Seems like he's trolling the Raiders, maybe Tom Brady specifically. How likely do you think it is? I know you don't think they should, and there's a bunch of reasons why they shouldn't. But how likely is it, in your opinion, you think the Niners will make a real run for Maxx Crosby?
Well, I definitely think they're going to make an offer. He makes sense. I mean, he makes sense for them on a lot of fronts. They need somebody opposite Bosa. It sounds like, and it wouldn't surprise me if Max like yearned to be here because he's thinking of when he was happier and he was living here and he could go back and live here and play on a winning team. And so I could see where he'd want to be here. It's all about the price tag. I think it's more likely that the Niners will make a run at him than it is likely that Mark Davis would ever consummate a trade that would send him here. Unless it's super one-sided. And I think the 49ers, I heard Matt Barrows was asked about this in the last week, and he was like, yeah, I think the Niners, what they want to pay is like a second-round pick. Well, I agree. I think that's totally what they want to pay, and I just don't think the Raiders are at that point that they're willing to give up somebody they love so much for just that kind of a sum. And also, I don't know if it's realistic to think that he would go for such a low price, considering what he actually brings to the table, and he's in his prime.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be the Micah Parsons trade, for starters. How old is Maxx Crosby? He 29. Is 28 years old.
28.
Yeah, he's going to be good for a while. If the Niners could get Maxx Crosby, I'd be all for it. I thought they should have traded for him at the trade deadline, and I think the issue really is, would the Raiders do it, and could the Niners make the best offer? I'm not sure they could make the best offer, and I'm not sure the Raiders would do it. Although I don't know if it's Mark Davis really making the decisions anymore, if it's Clint Kubiak or if it's Tom Brady. Who do you think has more juice right now? Clint Kubiak or Tom Brady in that organization?
Probably Clint Kubiak.
I would agree.
I would say Clint Kubiak, just because, it's his show. It's his show. It's the head coach's show. The head coach in all football organizations is the central figure, at least unless you have some kind of weird dysfunction or, when your owner is your central figure or your GM, I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's got to be you speak with not with one voice, and that voice has got to be the head coach.
Well, if the Niners can get Maxx Crosby, would that make them Super Bowl favorites?
Well, here's the thing about this. It's like, on one hand, I'm like, you know what? This isn't the answer because it seems kind of like a shortcut. And I don't think the 49ers, who took a shortcut with Trey Lance, didn't work, took a shortcut with Javon Hargrave, didn't work. They love the shortcut idea because they can run it back with an older cast without doing real building. But the real deal is you got to do real building. But the one thing, just watching that rise of the Niners and watching it start to finish, and it was a good exercise, even for somebody like me who lived through it. The one thing that took the Niners, Grant, from, man, they're kind of intriguing to they are champions, was the 81 infusion of fearsome defenders. Because in 80, they had Walsh, and they had Montana, and they had Dwight Clark, and they had Freddie Solomon. What they didn't have was Ronnie Williamson, Eric Wright, Jack Reynolds, or Fred Dean. And that's almost half your defense that they added in 81, all fearsome defenders, and they went on and won in the Super Bowl. So if you ask me where the Niners are now, I would say they got the quarterback probably. They probably got the head coach, but they got to add fearsome defenders. And Maxx Crosby is a fearsome defender. So my only question is, what can you put around him after you spend whatever it's going to take on the cap and in draft picks to get him? That would be my only concern, but he's a fearsome defender, and they need that. So, might be a good move.
It seems like to win a Super Bowl now, you have to have an all-time great defense. The last three Super Bowl champions have had incredible defenses, and the Niners are, at least one superstar player away. But if you had Maxx Crosby and Nick Bosa healthy, and Fred Warner and Lenore, maybe one more free agent, a safety or a linebacker, and then you draft well, maybe you trade Renardo Green and bring in another cornerback. Now you could talk about that being a great defense. With that quarterback, maybe they could win.
I mean, I think the one thing, if you said, what's Raheem Morris bringing to the table on that side of the ball, I think you're going to see more five-man fronts. And the Niners probably have 3 spots covered in the 5-man front. So they got to have, if they want to run these 5-man fronts as the lead dog in their defense and play a lot of cover, 3, cover 4 and zone behind it, then you better have better front 7 guys. You better have better athletes on that second level. You better have better, faster rushers off the edge. And they don't have their 5-man line right now. They could barely put together one, and they would have no backups. They need an infusion of about 4 different players in their front 7 if they're going to be competitive.
I'm glad that you brought up the rise of the Niners. Eddie, he was a main character in this show. He's interviewed in the show. Doesn't it seem like this is the kind of move? I don't know if he would necessarily go after Maxx Crosby, but doesn't it feel like 10 years into a tenure, coming close, winning 13 games last year, including the playoffs, he'd be itching to make a big move this offseason to get the 49ers back in. Why would he want to be second place to the Seahawks again next year? I don't think he could bear it.
And people will bring up this all the time. They'll say, well, Eddie did it in this non-salary cap era, and that's not reality, and this is the salary cap era. Okay, that's fair to some degree. Not really fair, because Eddie did actually win a Super Bowl in the salary cap era, but people don't give him that one. I guess that one doesn't count, but whatever. But the point is that Eddie would try to get back with what the Niners just did, which was to win 12 games in a year where they had $103 million of dead cap, and they spent very little in free agency and almost nothing in the undrafted market. They basically looked at last year as a transition. They weren't going to say it publicly because that's bad business to do so, but they looked at it as a transition. Kittle even voiced it at the end of the year. Heck, I hate to say it, but Dieter was right. He said it's all about 26, and it was all about 26, except that you just can't say it. So if what would Eddie D do this year? He would spend some money, sign some free agents, probably bring in more coaches than the Niners would bring in. He would probably go for Schwartz right now. He'd probably just, because there's no cap on that. He'd spend a lot of money there, but he would basically rattle the cage of Lynch and Shanahan. And he may even just move on. He may demand that Lynch be out. I mean, Eddie was a bottom line guy. They've missed a lot in the draft. They've hit, and we all like Lynch, but Eddie would not sit there and just, well, you know what, we're going to be good being a second fiddle to Seattle and the Rams, and the Niners right now clearly are.
Yeah, it just feels like while 2025 was supposed to be a reset year and a year to get a lot younger, they did bring in young players who might be good, but it still seems like all their best players are older players, with the exception of Brock Purdy. And so if that's still the core of your team, Warner, Bosa, Kittle, McCaffrey, who's still going to be here, then why not bring in someone who's a little bit older? It doesn't have to be Maxx Crosby, but they don't necessarily have to only. I mean, again, I just don't think Eddie would say, you know what, let's just build through the draft. It's not what he would do. He'd be aggressive.
Yeah. He'd be aggressive. I mean, I just don't want them to think that a shortcut's going to work, because for every team that like the Rams, who the Rams were missing in the draft, right? So Les Snead said, we're going to buy a bunch of guys. And they bought a bunch of guys, and they won the Super Bowl, okay? But I don't really believe in that mode of winning. I mean, I think they got fortunate and got it done. Then they had a 1-year run. It wasn't sustainable. They had to crash out. Now they're back. I mean, it's I don't know. It's to me, if that's not the sustainable way to build, I think you got to build with foundation pieces in the draft, like the Niners of the 80s did with Lott and Rice and Joe, and and if you can supplement it with a trade here or there, and they've done more than that. They've supplemented it quite a bit, but they need to build in the draft. But I do like the idea. I mean, they're at a point now where it's time to make a list of your needs and start checking them off. And if once you fill all your needs, you'll be right there with Seattle. But you got to check off those needs. And a big time edge rusher who puts heat on Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford is at or very much near the top of that list. And so if you want to start with Crosby and make a big play there, I'm fine with that.
All right.